Hi, my name is Tiffany and I wanted to share my story with you. I grew up just 5 minutes down the road from Mountain Ridge. I came into this world in a pretty rough way. My biological mom was in a really dark place and was struggling with many different drugs. I was born with drugs and alcohol in my system. I was taken away at birth and placed in foster care, and I bounced around in many different homes during my early months. When I was 18 months old, I was adopted, and let me tell you, God was already working in my story. Doctors told my parents I was very delayed. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I wasn't doing what other almost 2-year-olds were doing. My mom and dad saw something in me that no one else did. My mom took me to countless therapies and fought for me every step of the way. She was my voice when I had no voice at all. God was working in my story from that very moment I was born. I grew up in the Catholic Church and I was baptized at a pretty young age. I completed all my sacraments alongside my siblings. We went to church every single Sunday, and I always knew who Jesus was. He was a huge part of our family's life. At some point during my childhood, we stopped going regularly, but we continued talking about the Lord often in my home. Going into my freshman year of high school, I lost a pretty close friend of mine. Something inside of me sparked, and I asked my dad and my grandma, who was living with us at the time, if I could start going to youth group. That very next Sunday, we went to church, and we got connected with the youth pastor. And just a few weeks later, I attended youth conference, and from that point on, we attended every single Sunday for the rest of my high school years. My senior year, my grandma passed away just a few days before Christmas, and that season for me was really hard. She was a big part of my relationship with the Lord, and she guided me through all of my questions. Anything I had to ask, she always knew the answer. On New Year's Eve that next year, I met Bennett, my husband now. We talked for a while, and then Bennett invited me to Mountain Ridge Church. I would go to Mass with my dad at 9 a.m. and then rush over to the 10:45 service to be with Bennett. I didn't know what I would feel walking into Mountain Ridge Church, but if I'm being honest, I felt the Lord through my whole body. I lifted my hands during worship, and I praised Him like I never had before. And in that moment, I knew it was exactly where I was supposed to be. Everyone was so welcoming and so loving and just amazing, honestly. Shortly after we graduated high school, Bennett joined the military. We did long distance for a little over a year, and then in November of 2014, we got married. When we moved home, we wanted to get reconnected with the church, so we joined Maggie and Alex's small group, along with our best friends, Brittany and Keaton. We connected with everyone in our small group immediately, and it felt like it was right where we needed to be. Around that time, we began trying to have our first child. After trying for a while with no success, we went to Pastor Brett, and he prayed over us and encouraged us to open up to our small group. And I was able to open up about mine and Bennett's journey about having our first child. And the girls all laid their hands on me and prayed over us as I was telling them about what was going on. God was working in our story every step of the way, because just 1 month later, we found out that we were pregnant. During that season, my friend Tanya was starting a mom's group. It was exactly what I needed heading into motherhood. Those women carried me through some of the darkest days, in the moments when I felt like I couldn't do it. I remember 3 days after coming home with Owen, I was laying in bed thinking to myself, wow, this is really hard. And I texted those girls, and every last girl in that group texted me and told me that I was gonna be okay, and that God was walking with me, and that they were with me, and that what I was feeling was normal, and to just really lean into the Lord. God was always there. There was one night that I was really having a hard time. And I remember I said, I'm not feeling well. So I turned on worship music, and I got on my hands and knees and I prayed. And I prayed that the devil would just get out of me, because I felt like I was in the darkest place I've ever been. And I felt God lay His hands on me. And ever since that moment, I've felt that God has been by my side, guiding me through every step of my life. At the beginning of 2025, Bennett and I walked into the Volunteer Appreciation Night. That's when Carrie stopped me and asked if I had a moment to chat. I had no idea that conversation would change my relationship with the Lord in a whole new way. She asked me to join her preschool team. It was a huge leap of faith for our family. I was going from full-time work to part-time. And when I tell you God was in our decision, He absolutely was. By the end of the year, she asked me to work alongside her as the director of the program. It was one of the biggest blessings of my life. Owen and I got to be together every single day, and I get to worship the Lord through my work, which is even better. I've known the Lord my whole life, but over the last few years, I've truly deepened my relationship with Him on my own. At our small group Christmas party every year, we do fun awards, and this past year, I got voted the most spiritual growth. And that little piece of paper means more to me than anyone knows, because not only am I growing in my relationship with Him, but the people around me can see it too. Today and every day, I will continue to grow in my faith alongside all of you. Thank you so much for listening to my story.